What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, that's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus, and last night could not have gone worse in New York, but all three games, low-scoring games, the unders hit in all three, which was pretty interesting. You got a 3-2 final in Florida, a 3-0 final in New York, and a 4-1 final in LA to kick things off for the 2025-2026 season. But there's also a lot of news to talk about as well. And we will get into a Toronto-Montreal preview a little bit later with Eric Engels of Sportsnet, who's a good friend of the show, as you guys all know. But Colby, where is your brain at this morning?
I would say a little all over the place. I'm definitely enjoying your sad puppy energy.
It's not even sad puppy. It's the fuck pup. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it.
I mean, look, when we get a former New York Ranger texting us bright and early in the morning into our group chat, and he's coming for you, I mean, that's a good way to start any day in my book. And he starts taking shots across the bowl at you. But let's just start with this. Why was the Garden a morgue last night? I mean, there was just no energy in that building. Even from the get-go, it felt like the only person that got a loud ovation last night was David Quinn, which I thought was really interesting.
He did. Yeah, he did. But I don't want to start with the Rangers. I actually want to start somewhere else. And we can get into the Rangers a little bit because I know you're going to gloat. So I'm just going to beat you there. I'm going to beat you to it. But before we get there, Colby, I do want to give a shout out to a new sponsor, and that's Prime. So this segment is a presentation of Prime Video and Monday Night Hockey, your exclusive home to the NHL, streaming games nationally in Canada and every Monday. Prime Monday Night Hockey opens next week, October 13th, with a doubleheader between Detroit and Toronto, followed by St. Louis and Vancouver. Subscribe with a 30-day free trial to Prime Video to watch Monday Night Hockey and the new season of Face Off. Download the app or go to primevideo.com. And if you do watch the new season of Face Off on episode 4, you'll see our pretty faces with Carter Hutton. But Elliot Friedman dropped some news during the games last night. Elliot did a great job on our show yesterday. And Colby, I know if once this gets done, you're going to never let me hear the end of it. Kyle Connor discussing a $12 million 8-year contract extension with the Winnipeg Jets. And Jack Eichel also had comments yesterday out of practice that apparently Connor McDavid's decision to sign at 12.5 is not going to impact his decision to sign with Vegas or what he'll sign for. Just curious on your thoughts on Kyle Connor originally, and then we'll move to Jack Eichel, and then we'll kind of get into the games from last night.
Yeah, listen, I think everybody's different. And I think we've made that point even when we've talked about Connor McDavid. What works for Connor McDavid might not work for Jack Eichel. But I personally believe if I'm Kyle Connor, he's looking at this deal, which is reportedly an 8-year deal. And usually when these guys go the full term, the dollars are more. So to see him come in at 12 million, or even if it's 12.5 million, whatever, personally, I believe that there was probably pressure that he felt to keep his contract similarly and around the number that Connor McDavid had. And I want to read a tweet from yesterday from Ray Ferraro, who I believe to be one of the most respected voices in the game of hockey. One of the best broadcasters there is, south of the border, north of the border, you name it. And he said, I think teams will pressure players to leave money on the table and will use McDavid's contract as an example. If they don't leave money on the table, there will be great pressure in markets to play in that don't care about winning. And that is not the case in my opinion. And I don't think Kirill Kaprizov doesn't care about winning. But as the great Jeff Marek said on the sheet earlier this week, why are players being tasked with the job of managing the cap for general managers? So I do think there's coincidence surrounding this news of Kyle Connor and Connor McDavid and the timing of all of it. But again, these players have to do what they think is good for them. And you can't deny the fact that by leaving money on the table, your team should be better if you trust your general manager. There will be more money that goes to players on your team, right? So that is obviously an important an important distinction. But again, you're going to continue to see players get ridiculed now. Anybody who decides to take more than probably $12.5 million. And look, Connor took 2 years, right? So he didn't take a 12-year deal. So that sure does lower the AAV normally for players. But I do think this is a domino effect. And, when we have Jeff come back on the show tomorrow, because he's going to join us for a little bit tomorrow, I do have a question for him that I want to talk to him about in this whole players versus owners partnership and rivalry that you see between the NHLPA and the owners of, like, how does this affect future negotiations? But we'll kind of leave that on the table. Do you think 12.5 or 12 is the right number for Kyle Connor? I mean, you're talking about a guy who has generally had 35 goals a season-ish. Okay, he's had some years where he's had 31, but he's had some years over 40. But it's mostly been in that 35, 37, type of range. 1 year he was hurt. His goals were down, but he only played 50 games and had 20 goals. So I don't know. What do you think, Johnny? Is $12 million, is that Kyle Connor leaving money on the table for other players in Winnipeg?
I'm not fully sold on that, just because of what he was making. I guess what he's making now, which is like $7.1 million. And that was how many years was that? 7-year contract. So he's finishing up year 7 of a 7-year, $7.1 million contract. And just like thinking about Winnipeg, I mean, as good as Kyle Connor is, wouldn't you agree that Scheifele and Hellebuck are like more important to the team? And they just took the 8.5 like dual contracts. They both signed at the same time for 8.5.
Yeah, but remember when they signed, Johnny, when a player signed means
it was like
everything.
Last year.
Yeah, I get it, but we hadn't
or 2
seen
years
the
ago.
figure
2 years ago.
For this 2 years ago. We didn't know about the salary cap. Okay, we didn't know about the major rise. Now we're hearing the estimated numbers might be way lower than actual. They're saying next year might not be 104. It might be 108 or 107. So again, you're pulling contracts that are too old. That's like looking at David Pasternak's contract and saying, wow, like what a bad contract for David Pastrnak. Like, no, when he signed that contract, it was in the ballpark of what it should have been. If David Pastrnak was a free agent right now, he would be worth the Kirill Kaprizov contract if he was a free agent for a deal right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If Kyle Connor is the highest paid player in your team and he's the number 1 player on your team, are you good enough to win a Stanley Cup?
So I don't buy this whole narrative of who like
the internal cap or whatever.
I do not buy that. I think that is absolute dog shit.
I do think the most important player to a team should be paid the most. That's
yeah, but Johnny, if the most important player to a team signed 3 years ago in an 8-year deal, and now all of a sudden the cap is 30% more. No, that's exactly what we're talking about with Scheifele. He's 2 years ago. Kyle Connor's still under contract this year. So whatever he signs, it doesn't start until next year. So there's a 3-year delta between when these contracts kick in. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying to you, clean slate. Let's say you're handing out contracts right now. Everyone's at $0. Is Kyle Connor your most highly paid player on this team?
Well, he's your number 1 goal scorer, and you're not paying a goaltender $12 to $13 million because that's just not been the market really for goaltenders. I mean, what did Shesterkin end up coming in at? I'm
11.5.
What's that? 11.5. So he set the market for that. Yeah, I would say Kyle Connor is your number 1 goal scorer. I have no problem with him being the highest paid player, but it's a fantasy scenario, Johnny, because
but are you winning
that's not how it works. Well, I mean, so far the answer would be no, but let me ask you this question. McDavid stayed at $12.5 million, right, in his contract, right? So if we're just playing this fantasy game that you so often like to play, they lost the cup 2 years in a row with him at $12.5 million. So, like, we can find scenarios that fit narratives all day that we want. I don't want to deal in narratives, okay?
And Chef Richard, Chef Richard goes, dude, Connor hit 97 points last year. Yeah, and Mitch Marner at 102. What's the fucking difference between the two
Yeah,
guys?
but I'll tell you what the difference is.
They're not carrying the team to the playoffs. They're not carrying the team to the playoffs.
Kyle Connor had 17 points in 13 playoff games last year. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So to me, that would be a distinct difference between Kyle Connor and Mitch Marner if we want to do that. So I don't know. Like, I think that
Chef Richard says Kyle Connor is the number one player with Scheifele, Hellebuck, and Josh Morrissey as supporting cast.
Right. So, anyway,
I feel like
so that's, listen,
Hellebuck
you asked me a
player,
question about a topic. That's my opinion on the topic. We'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll see when the report comes out. The biggest
difference with Eichel is that Eichel already won a cup there, so he could take all the money in the world that he wants because he doesn't really owe them anything. He's already done it.
I don't know, man. We live in a very "what have you done for me lately" society. I mean, coaches win a Stanley Cup, and they're out on their ass 3 years later. So I don't know. Like, and J Rock says, and this will be my last comment on this, is the only reason Connor is the highest paid player is because of timing of his new contract, not because he's the best. Again, I do think he's the best player on that team. I don't agree with you on that, J Rock, but timing of the contract for everyone is always everything. So let's get into the games last night, Johnny, because it was nice to finally have some NHL hockey on. Staggered start times. Hallelujah. Okay. Could watch all 3 games. I even stayed up for 90% of the late game, which is not generally my thing. I'm usually getting up the next morning and finishing it at that point. But what were your main takeaways watching Chicago and Florida last night, or maybe from the overall night, if you want to throw your main takeaways? And I'll kick this to you in the chat as well. Did any themes stick out to you all last night throughout watching these hockey games? Because I did see some themes, I would call them early season, almost preseason types of themes in these games last night.
We're doing Florida, Chicago first, right?
Yeah, we can start with Florida and Chicago, but I just want to put it into the chat because I want to kind of see what they think about things and observations that they had throughout the games, because I think we can obviously bring that into the conversation and have the chat involved in the show a little bit more today.
So I think Florida is going to be just fine for now, at least without Barkov and Tkachuk. Although I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, does Florida look that good? Or am I still keeping in mind that this is Chicago? There were some bright spots on Chicago, but as a team collectively, still not very strong. So I don't want to say Florida is going to be, the top team in the Atlantic again, even without those 2 guys, because I'm keeping in mind who the opponent was. But from everything it looked like in the beginning, in the first period at least, they looked just fine. Obviously, a mistake happens and Nazar scores. But as far as the Blackhawks go, I told you before, a surprise to me was Wyatt Kaiser. I thought he had a really strong game, and he's a guy I'm not super familiar with. I don't even know how many games he's played in the NHL so far.
A good amount. No. He's played a decent amount of games. I was there when he was breaking in, and he was coming up. He spent, he's been a guy that's bounced up and down from Rockford to the National Hockey League. Yeah, he's got 99 games under his belt over the course of a couple. He played 9, 32, 57. So last year he played 18 minutes a night and played a good portion of the year. But I'll tell you what, they miss Alex Vlasic. I mean, he's still nursing an injury from preseason. Ethan Del Mastro was on that third pair last night. I'll tell you something that stood out to me, Johnny. First of all, yes, I see everyone saying Knight, talking about Spencer Knight. I thought Spencer Knight was tremendous last night, and good for him. This is a guy who, has went on this massive run in Florida and looked like he was going to be a star. And then he had to deal with some personal issues, and they were not alcohol related. When a player goes into substance program, everybody just assumes alcohol or drugs. Not the case for Spencer Knight whatsoever. So to see him rebuild his game, he had to go back to the minors. He gets traded. He showed flashes last year, but it looks like Chicago has their number 1 goalie for now and for the future. So give Kyle Davidson a lot of credit, because this trade, it looks like an absolute home run for that team, because it just wasn't working out with Seth was Seth Jones.
Jones.
So
You made a good point, though, that it was like mutually beneficial for both clubs. That was a good point by
listen,
you.
that trade is a grand slam so far for maybe not a grand slam for Chicago yet. I mean, Jones helps them win a Stanley Cup, but a triple for Kyle Davidson, you know, and it could turn into a home run or a grand slam at some point. But I think the name that everybody go ahead, Johnny.
What? No, I was just going to say I agree with Rob in the chat. He said Bedard looked unreal last night despite no points. There was one play Bedard made in the second period. It was like a 2-on-2 rush. He came from the right side to the left side, kind of opened up his lower body a little bit, made like a cross seam pass to I don't know what lefty it was. I don't think it was Teravainen. I maybe it was Mikheyev or something, but like if that's an elite left winger or right winger, like that's in the back of the net. Like that pass was disgusting by Bedard. I thought his skating did look really good. Obviously that's something that people talked about all summer. Yeah.
Let's press a little further on this because I just feel like we all fall into like narratives really, really quickly. And we've all seen the videos of Bedard's training in the summer. And I feel like everybody just sort of pre-decided some of these things. Did Bedard make his line mates a lot better last night? And that's always my thing. Like Bedard's individual skill is insane.
No, that's not
his individual skill. I mean, it is impressive. The way he handles a puck. Mm-hmm. He had that shot early in the game that went off the bar. His release is incredible. I mean, listen, the kid is individually talented, man.
That pass right there. Good job, right? Vic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that Colton Dock? I couldn't tell.
It was Colton Dock. Yeah, it was Colton Dock.
A little bit fuzzy, but I thought
that's a pretty elite play. Like that's a tough play to make.
Okay, so he sets up Doc there, who's sort of breaking his way into the NHL right now. Yeah. But I don't see him dragging his team in. I don't see him dragging his line in and through. Now, I will say this. His game last night, he looked extremely committed without the puck, okay? Mm-hmm. And his face-offs were terrible last night. Like, he can't win a face-off at the NHL level. And that is a problem. They need to move that guy to the wing, and they need to find him an elite centerman to play with, because I just think that his skills are incredible, and I do think he ends up being a big-time scorer in the National Hockey League. Oh, ZZE said, Colby, that's why he should be a winger. We're on the same page here, ZZE. Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think he needs to be a winger. But I just think that if he can commit to the 200-foot game and you can surround him properly, like I think he could be an elite scorer because of his shot. I just don't think he's creating as much offensive pressure for
creates for himself
else.
And not for his line mates. That's the difference. That's like
it's kind of but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
But he does create a good
step for him. Yeah, it was a good step for him. Another guy that I would like to bring up, because I know Blackhawks fans are really excited about him, is Sam Rinzel, who played 25-ish minutes last night.
And now you're going to make them less excited?
No, listen, I've liked Sam Rinzel from the day they drafted him, and you can go back and you can find the receipts on that. And I remember Blackhawks fans were kind of freaking out, like, oh, they reached, this guy didn't end up being a good, like this guy plays in Waterloo in the USHL. He's a high school player because, he was still 2 years away from college when they drafted him, remember? Like, he had to play 2 years and then 1 year of college before he came. And what I would say with Rinzel is like, he's a little bit raw, but there's obviously a lot to like there. I think on the one goal, his defensive read was just slow. Like, he's covering the back post, but there's actually nobody at the back post, right? And he doesn't react quick enough.
Which one?
Yeah, he doesn't react. Yeah, he doesn't react quick enough to play Verhaeghe there on the goal line. And he's covering sort of the back post, but there's nobody there. So he's just going to have to kind of get his defensive reads to be a little bit quicker. And probably, I think he had like, maybe I counted 5 or 6 giveaways last night, which is too many. But there's certainly things to be excited about. And I think when you put him with Alex Vlasic and you give him that opportunity, oh, good job here, Vic. You just take a look at 6 right now. All right. He's hanging out there. He's playing between
nobody there.
Anticipating somebody being there on the back door. right? But he's not quick enough to make that decision. That's just, listen, it's just a rookie play. Like those types of
Mhm.
reads are just rookie plays. And I think the kid definitely is going to have an opportunity to develop in the National Hockey League. But you know, there's definitely going to be bumpy moments, and I think that's what you get with a defensive group. That Connor Murphy is really the only veteran back there right now. I guess Grizz. I shouldn't say that. They
Yeah.
signed Matt Grzelcyk. You know, and so we'll see how it shakes out for Chicago, though. Like it could be another long season, but you're going to have a goaltender that pretty much keeps you in it every night. And then the last thing I'll say,
Mhm.
man, I feel bad for Kevin Korchinski, because I got to tell you, if there was ever a study use case on a guy that went to the NHL too quickly and should have gone and played college hockey, that guy is the case. Like he got rushed into the NHL only because there was nowhere else to put him. Putting him back in the WHL at that time would have been terrible for him. Excuse me.
Mhm.
But look at all the guys that have passed him on the depth chart now. Sam Rinzel was the 25th pick the year that Kaiser was the 7th pick. Kaiser played a full season in the NHL 3-4 seasons ago now, right? And now he can't get back into the NHL. And you've got Ethan Del Mastro. You brought Grzelcyk in after a PTO. Like it's not a good look for Korchinski. That's tough, right? So
I mean,
I don't know if you have any other.
I was thinking this. My last thing, I was thinking the same thing about Levshunov, dude. Like, second overall pick, has had take 2 penalties in the first 10 minutes of that game last
He got
year
more
or
comfortable as
last
the
night.
game. He got more comfortable as the game went
But
along, and New York Marine is telling us in the chat that Drager's reporting 8 for 12 for Kyle Connor, done deal. So hi Rock, how are you, buddy? I see your message in there, Davey Naraki, one of my guys from the Flyers Warriors. He's here in the chat today. So yeah, so stay in school, kids. I mean, I saw a tweet last night that said Ryan Green seems to be really good at faceoffs for a guy who just came out of college. And you know what? That's why you take your time. Ryan Green did 3 years. He didn't rush out after the second year. There was pressure on him to sign. He stayed that extra year. He got stronger. He continued to work with Jay Pandolfo. And now look at the guy. He's winning faceoffs his first game in the beginning of this new season in the National Hockey League. So,
I was just looking at some of the comments in the chat too, and Ice Club said this is the problem with rebuilds. They don't let their prospects marinate in the AHL. Well, even for Levshunov, he just did 1 year at Michigan State, right? Like we've seen most defensemen spend the 2 years in college that then make the jump and they're comfortable. Like he only did 1 year. He was a one and done at Michigan State. A guy like that should have probably done 2. But I guess to the point of Ice Clubs, like with the rebuild, there's probably a little bit more of a rush to get him there.
Yeah, Sharma says Jackson Lacombe 4 years in college, and he was really good in college, and he probably didn't get the flowers because of Brock Faber, but he was the quarterback on their first power play while Brock Faber was there. I mean, he was that guy more than Brock Faber. So, certainly interesting to see the landscape change and how it's affected some guys versus others. And I do think we continue to make the case for the development path, especially for defensemen, right? I think forwards is a little bit of a different animal, but especially for defensemen, a little more patience. So we do have Eric Engels coming up here shortly. Let's hit on the Florida Panthers really quick and talk a little bit about some of the guys, in my opinion, that I thought played really well last night, stepped up. I thought Sergei Bobrovsky was good, even though there wasn't a ton of pressure. And Kevin Weeks showed a clip of Sergei Bobrovsky working through the screen to make difficult saves in traffic, and just like how hard he crouches down and he works. And then I was just, when I was watching the LA game, I saw Darcy Kemper let that goal in from Malinowski? I forget who scored the goal from long range for LA last night.
It was
point shot.
Was it
Malinowski?
Why am I blanking his name? How do you say
it was
his name?
Malinowski. It was Malinowski. Yeah. So, or Malinsky.
Malinsky.
Whatever.
Yeah, Malinsky.
The difference, though, is Darcy Kemper only looked once instead of doing what Bobrovsky did, and he kept fighting to get through the screen. And I just feel like that was such a interesting difference between a goalie that we consider to be elite and a goalie like Darcy Kemper, who we say is a good goalie, but he's not an elite level goaltender, right? And I just thought that was an interesting contrast to see Bob back for another year, a warrior
Contract
in net,
year.
battling for pucks. Yeah, sure, a contract year. I think his contract will probably be somewhat easy. And we will get to talking about the Kings helmets, the Kings uniforms. We'll do that after we have Eric Engels to talk about the Leafs and Montreal Canadiens. We'll ask him obviously about Lane Hudson, but I thought Verhaeghe stepped up. I thought Reinhart was good. I thought Evan Rodriguez contributed last night. I thought Brad Marchand looked like 5 years ago. Brad Marchand. What did you think about him, Johnny?
I mean, he's going to have to be, right? Without those two guys, like Marchand's the next man up leader, I'd say, in the lineup. You can look at guys who have been there longer, but I think Marchand is going to who's speaking up and leading by example. And last night he did that. He was all over the puck. I obviously I'm not in the locker room, but like, he's the one shooting the shit on the microphone before the game with ESPN. Like I thought his little thing with TJ Oshie was nice, saying like, finally a good looking guy up there.
Yeah.
Like that's just like a feel good thing. But
and then PK I don't know if you saw PK's response to Brad Marchand. No. He posted a video I thought was really funny. He was like, you're not going to have as good a life as me for the next 6 years, but you might be able to get as tan as I am living in Florida. And PK had the video cut. Like, listen, he's a funny guy who doesn't take himself too seriously. I can appreciate that about PK. But listen, why don't you read Eric into the show because he's here waiting, and we can talk about Florida for a minute or two with him. Eric's a hockey guy. Like he'll be down to talk about Florida for a minute before we switch gears to the Canadiens versus the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, so before we bring, our friend Eric Engels on the show, just want to give a word from our sponsor, Perasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care made in Italy since 1948. Perasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at Perasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. So let's kick it over to Eric Engels from Sportsnet if we do have him. Which we don't.
Yeah, we're working on. We have him. I think his camera froze, so we're just kind of waiting on him.
All right, go on with the chlorophyll.
I gotta tell you, my allergies are absolutely running my show today. By the way, good reference. By the way, I did hear that.
Okay, that was good. I don't know if it was correctly timed, but you know what I'm talking about.
I remember a couple of years ago with the Florida Panthers, I made the mistake of going on with Tyler and Frank the year their defensive core was all banged up for the beginning of the season and thinking they were in trouble.
That was after they lost in the Cup final, right?
Exactly. It was after they lost in the Cup final. And I just think there's enough there. And these guys,
I said they were missing the playoffs that year.
They're going to understand how to get wins. I think Jeff Petrie, if you're going to get 13 to 15 minutes a night from Jeff Petrie on the back end. Forsling, we know what a star he is. Mikola's game and confidence continues to grow. Hi, buddy. They're going to figure it out because, again, I just think Brad Marchand, obviously, you can't expect him to pick up the star power of Barkov and Tkachuk. Like, you can't ask any player in the world to pick the star power of those two combined together. But Marshy has that aura. The guy has won now in 2 places. His personality and his maturity that he's sort of grown into over the years. Like, I think when you look at Sam Bennett and you look at some of these other guys, whether Lundell, who played 19 minutes, almost 20 minutes last night, like, I think some of these guys are going to have an opportunity to sort of go to another gear because they're going to be given more opportunity and more minutes and more shifts that they don't normally get. So I think it's one of those where we're actually going to learn. I know we all like Luosterainen and we all like Lundell, and they call Lundell Baby Barkov. I think we're all really going to get introduced to just how good some of those guys are here over the next couple of months. And I think that's going to be fun to watch. And Ben says Reinhart is the guy in Florida now. Did you see the move that Reinhart made on Matt Grzelcyk? That little shimmy shake that he made entering the offensive zone? Like, boy, is he crafty.
But one name, too, that you didn't even mention was like Mackie Samoskevich. Like, I think he had, 2 assists last night? What do you mean he had 2 assists last night?
Yeah,
What
he
was the
played
ice time?
bottom minutes. Wasn't on the. He only played 11 minutes last night, so
Did he
didn't
really?
get a ton of ice. Yeah, he didn't get a ton of ice, but
Um,
he was
but
effective. He was
yeah,
physical.
he was noticeable.
Well, his speed.
And I
Listen, Sam
yeah, he
Estevich's
can
greatest tool is his wheels. The kid can fly.
and he can shoot. I mean, he can shoot the puck when he has time and space. Remember that overtime goal he had at Michigan that one year in the tournament? Were you on that call?
I do. I wasn't on that call, but I
Yeah,
do
you
remember
were
the.
on that call,
Listen,
but that was a sick shot.
he's an offensive player who's learning how to play in the bottom six, right? Because he's trying to find
Yeah.
his way into more of a top six, top nine scoring role. Vic, are you keeping us updated here
Yeah, he will.
on
He's probably
angles?
working on it behind
I'm
the
not.
scenes.
Okay, cool. Because I haven't. I'm not keeping an eye necessarily on the chat. Our personal chat. I'm just looking at
Mhm.
the public chat. So, just
What'd you
keep me
think of this
going
though,
there.
Colby? As far as like just marketing, presentation, all that stuff goes, I saw someone tweet and I forgot who it was saying like the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions are raising their banner at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, only in the NHL. Like it's pretty funny when you think about the timing of it, you know?
Listen, man, the reality is what the reality is. And it was smart to stagger the games last night because you have an
Yeah.
opportunity to draw people that aren't fans from those audience when you stagger the games. And I'm always a fan of that. I think having an early game and being able to see more throughout the night, I will die on that hill, even though,
Mhm.
again, those decisions are made way over my head. I'm sure there's data that suggests I'm wrong, but I will totally die on that hill. So, all right, let's read Eric in because we only
Yep.
have 10, 15
We already did
minutes
it.
with him. Oh, we already
We
read
already
him
read
in.
him
All right,
in.
let's bring him up.
Eric's in. He's in. Look at him. Look at this guy. He's look handsome as ever. And Eric, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. First of all, it's great to see you. I have not listened to the Chicklets episode yet, so if we ask you similar questions, just want to apologize in advance because I would assume you don't want to repeat yourself with the questions that we're asking. Are you frozen? He looks frozen. I think he's frozen. Yeah,
I mean, at least
he's
he's
frozen.
frozen and he looks good. You know, normally when
Yeah.
you freeze, you look like an absolute buffoon. So at least got to give him credit for looking good when he's frozen. And I'm disappointed because I'm dying to ask him about the report that I keep seeing how negotiations with Lane Hudson and Lane Hudson's camp have gotten emotionally charged. I just want to know, and I want to ask him which side is emotionally charged. Because, I mean, I am in close contact with the Hudson side, and it does not seem emotionally charged for them. They seem totally okay, at peace. And they have no problem, it seems, letting this play out because they have such belief in their guy. And they know that the longer this plays out, the more it's actually going to cost the Montreal Canadiens. So I really wanted to ask him that. I hope we can get him back.
Well, I don't know if you got the chance because he just sent me a picture of his computer and said it totally crashed. So I don't know.
All right.
Oh, he
No
said
big deal.
he said he'll be back. He said I'll be back, good to go until 9:50. All right, so he'll keep me posted.
All right. All right.
So
So
I
we'll get
guess
him back.
let's just shift gears. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll shift gears. Let's talk Rangers Pittsburgh because um, that was a sad hockey game to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to tell you, there was not a lot of juice in that game. Congratulations to friend of the show, Nick Bonino, on his first win behind the bench. Obviously, Dan
Mhm.
Muse, who he works with. But boy, did the New York Rangers look slow last night or what? I mean, like, it was just so noticeable how much quicker the rebuilding and I guess the top slash bottom heavy Pittsburgh Penguins, right? Because they got all the old guys and then they got all the new guys. There's not a whole lot of
Yeah.
in between. They look so much quicker and faster and hungrier. I mean, New York couldn't break the puck out to save their life. That is
No.
not
And
a
they turned the puck
staple.
over constantly in the neutral zone. They were turning pucks over like nonstop. I don't have a stat or anything, but I wonder how many pucks were turned over at their offensive blue line, like as they were trying to enter the zone or even just dump it in. Like the amount of times they tried to dump it in, and the Penguins defenseman would block it or knock it down, or the puck just wouldn't get deep and it'd go the other way. It was just depressing from the start. And the Rangers, the first shift, they're hemmed in their own zone. And honestly, that's something we should mention too. Like I'll get back to that in a second, but hemmed in their own zone, they get a power play. Power play doesn't come up with anything. And when the power play, you know how Ranger fans can be, Colby. The power play got set up, but I don't think even registered a shot on the first opportunity, and the fans right from there are kind
Kills
of
your
restless.
momentum. Kills
It's
your
restless,
momentum.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
it's
But
listen, you don't have to score on every power play, but you got to generate something to get your fans and your bench feeling
yeah,
good. That power play was lifeless last night. Late, they had a stretch in the middle of the game where they looked like they were turning it up a little bit. But then the third period, how do you come out on home ice and lay a fucking egg in the third period in your home opener? New coaches that you're trying to impress. Oy, like that was as
yeah.
ugly as it could have been for the New York Rangers. What the fuck is Loft doing on that goal, on that face-off play? Where is he going?
We're gonna have to save it because Eric is back now. So I'm not just doing this because I don't want to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it. We'll get to it after. But now, Eric, just talk so we know you're here. Say something.
Sorry about that. I
No, you're
technical
good.
difficulties that I've never experienced before, but here we are.
No,
Okay,
it's
well,
all
it's
right.
great to
Listen.
see you. Great to have you back. I'm kicking it over to Colby. Colby, you start.
Yeah, I want to, before we get into the game and maybe the outlook for Montreal this year, I want to talk about the Lane Hudson situation with you and just kind of get your take on all of it. Yeah, you knew it, right? I know you knew it. I saw something about negotiations being emotionally charged, and I'm curious, like, I don't know. I don't think that was your report. I saw that on social media through like one of the NHL report accounts, and they usually quote whose report it was. I don't remember whose it was, so forgive me if it was yours. But I'm curious your take on that and which side you feel like is emotionally charged, and really where we stand with that whole thing right now.
It was Elliot's reporting on 32 Thoughts, and
Okay.
ultimately things do get emotional when the circumstances are what they are. Lane Hudson, not in the leverage share of this negotiation, is a 10-2C restricted free agent in a year from now. That means that he, the first 2 years coming out of that deal, he's ineligible for arbitration, and he's not eligible to sign an offer sheet, which puts all the leverage on the Canadian side, despite how great of a season Lane had. I don't think there's disrespect coming from the Canadians. They want to go long term with them. It's all over social media and out there in multiple reports that they have a long term offer on the table for Lane. But the salary cap is moving up, and it's moving up exponentially over the next few years. And so I think, are these sides so far apart that they can't hammer out a deal? Right now, they're far apart enough that they don't have one, right? And I think that has created a certain level of frustration on both sides, who both wanted to get this done before the season started. So, when you talk about emotions getting hot and needing to cool down and timeouts, like this is all, it's not new stuff when it comes to negotiations in any business, but specifically this one where there is so much emotion involved in this sport. So, I'm sure if you're a Canadiens fan, you're hoping cooler heads prevail and that this gets hammered out before we get to a point where he's in the same situation Luke Hughes or Mason McTavish or anybody else was in, where he's, holding out and waiting for a contract offer that ultimately ends up where the deal probably should have gotten signed in the first place. So we'll see where this all gets done. I think two things are true. The Canadiens want Lane Hudson to be with them for a long time, and Lane Hudson wants to be in Montreal for a long time.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, totally agree with that. What do you think if you're the general manager right now? If you're sitting in that chair, like what contract are you comfortable with given performance, given the ceiling of the player, but also given, as you said, the lack of leverage? Like what's the deal that you're putting on the table that you would feel good at with your GM hat on?
Honestly, I think eight at around $9 million a year is a fair deal for Lane Hudson based on what he's already shown. It's 1 year in the NHL. He has the opportunity to bet on himself and potentially, gain some leverage by holding out, right? So we'll see where that goes, but I think that's a fair deal. I look at all the deals signed for players coming out of entry level, but specifically what a 10-2C free agent is that they're come out of entry level having not accrued 3 years of professional experience. And what you're getting when you get an 8-year contract offer, a 7-year contract offer, is a level of security that you otherwise wouldn't have. And what you're sacrificing is some dollars on the table that you would otherwise be paid based on your projection and your performance. I think that's the thing about negotiations. Everybody talks about the deal that they want. good negotiations and with both parties having a deal that they can accept. You look at Caulfield, you look at Slafkovsky, you look at Suzuki, just on the Canadians alone. They took a little less for that financial security, knowing that when they'd be in the leverage share when they come out of those deals, or they're a year away from those deals expiring, they'll be able to get paid more on longer term deals than they'll probably be worth in the later years of that contract. That's the way the salary cap is structured. Teams have control through the first years that are restricted free agents, and unrestricted free agents have, mostly control. And it's all about finding a balance between both sides where, again, not necessarily that you end up happy, but you end up with a deal you can accept.
Yeah. And just so you know, Johnny, before I kick it over to you, it sounds like an incredibly level-headed approach by you, Eric, just for the record. So
he always is.
It's hard to disagree. It's hard to disagree with anything you said.
Well, I don't have a dog in the fight here, so there's no emotions to attach to it.
No, but your boots on the ground, and you know the player, you know the history, like you studied this whole situation. I'll just point one thing out. Luke Hughes was also a 10.2C as well in his negotiation, so he did need to hold out and miss camp in order to get what I would say was an overpay for Luke Hughes. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, and he was able to secure it because his two brothers went out in the media and talked about wanting to be united at some point in their career. And I think the New Jersey Devils realized that, not only do they want Luke Hughes in their lineup, but they obviously want to give themselves the best opportunity to be the team with which the Hughes brothers continue their career. Whenever Quinn comes up for a contract, Jack's up in 4 years. These are things that you have to consider. And I think they had the leverage to not go as far as they did until Luke held out, and those things were said in the media and acknowledged by the team that their leverage was weakened a little bit, and so they gave a little more over a 7-year period. I'm sure if that contract ended up at 9 times 8 instead of 9 times 7, they might feel a little bit better with it. But again, it's a deal that they could accept. It's a deal that Luke Hughes could accept. It's a deal that made the Hughes family, I'm sure, pretty happy. So. But it is comparable, you're right, Colby, to Lane Hutson in one respect in terms of the status as a free agent. In another, there's a little wrinkle in there that makes it kind of a different reality.
For sure. Definitely. Fair enough.
May I go now?
Yes, you can have your turn, John.
Okay. Thank you. So Eric, I know you have your pulse on the fan base. I'm curious, speaking of contracts, 7 years and whatnot, where Montreal Canadiens fans are at right now with Juraj Slafkovsky, because I don't know if there's a single player in the NHL that has to get off to a better start to the season than him. Last year, 4 goals in the first 40 games. He's starting the first year of that 7-year, I think $7.6 million contract. Like, are they going to get on him if that performance is what it's been over the past few years? Like you said, very slow first halves and then has finished strong. But if this team's going to go anywhere, they need him to be better.
Yeah, it's time for him to retire the nickname second half Slav, right? Like that's the goal for Juraj Slafkovsky, and I think he's taking it very seriously. And he's one of a number of players, despite his age being a little younger than some of the other guys I would compare him to, an Arbor Jack guy, Kirby Dach, guys that have come of age in this locker room and realize what it takes to be the ultimate kind of professionals. Look, Juraj has all the ability to get off to a good start, especially playing next to Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. And I like his opportunity to take advantage of it. I like his attitude coming into it. I like what I saw from him in training camp. The kid has great intentions. You go back a few years, he was the youngest player entering the NHL when he first started. I understand he was a first overall pick. He learned a lot. He was coming over from Europe, totally different style of game, new team, new teammates, and all that pressure on his shoulders as number 1 overall in Montreal. You go through, the last 2 seasons that he's been through and have to keep in mind that there was some maturing that need to happen both on and off the ice for this player because of his age. What he showed in those second halves to earn himself that nickname is that the player the Canadians believe him to be is absolutely in there. He just needs to unlock it under a consistent basis, which is something that you would say of any player that is his age. So I think it's a big year for him. No doubt the contract has started. The pressure is on. It's been on since the start. But he's in a position to take advantage of that. And I like his attitude and believe he can.
Do you think he's a mainstay on that top unit, or would they replace him? because they have so many
Your job
options
is
for that
never
power play.
your job is never permanent in those situations, and I think any player understands that, no matter what their status is. You need to play well, especially with the internal competition. And I think we know, and we'll probably address it in the next 5 minutes before I run off to morning skate, that Ivan Demidov is on this team now too. So we'll see.
It was the next guy I was going to ask you about. Like that's a guy that I'm dying to hear about. What have you seen from him in the preseason so far and through training camp? And what do you think fair expectations are for Ivan Demidov?
I think the expectations were probably pretty similar than they were for Lane Hudson and what we saw from him last training camp, right? You see a player that is a star bordering on superstardom, that he'll start immediately as a star in the league. And he showed that last year when he came over from Russia and immediately had that electric debut against the Chicago Blackhawks and into the playoffs where things got understandably a lot rougher, and it was a level of game he had never been exposed to before. By the time we got to the end of that series against Washington, he adapted really quickly. So he's got elite playmaking ability. All the players in the Canadiens room believe he can be a difference maker. And I'm not one to disagree with them, considering what his talent ability is and ability is. Guys, he's the odds-on favorite for the Calder for a reason. It's a bet that I'd feel pretty comfortable making.
I was texting with Mark Delgaizo a little bit during training camp, and Mark said, like, quote unquote, he's absolutely foul. Like that's how disgusting Demidov is. And Mark also said, like, he is a beauty too. Like, apparently he's a great kid. I don't know what his English is like. I haven't really heard him do any interviews. Like, how is he with the media and speaking English? Yeah, he's good.
It's pretty good. He's, I think in front of the cameras, he's all kind of smiles, but man, is he a serious customer when it comes to what goes into making him what he is. Like he was on the ice twice a day, 5 days a week this summer. He'd go to the rink at 9 o'clock in the morning, work out, get on the ice with all the guys that were in town, and there were a lot of them, go home, eat a meal, take a nap, come back to the rink for some individual skating sessions. This kid is, there's hungry and there's starving. This kid's starving. He's doing everything he can to stack the odds in his favor.
Yeah. All right. Before we let you go, big opener tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I love letting these two teams go head to head in the first game of the season, Eric, even though defensive play tends to be sloppy early in the season. But anything you're looking for tonight, anything our audience should be on the lookout for tonight? Is it Noah Dobson and how he's fitting in? Is it Kirby Dach and what Kirby Dach are we getting? Like, what are the storylines for the game tonight?
I think it's all those things, but ultimately it's about the urgency with which the Canadiens need to approach the season. They got shot off to the worst start in the Eastern Conference through December 1st last year, and playing catch up again this time around with a condensed schedule due to the Olympics. They've got 16 back-to-back situations. They're starting with 3 games in 4 nights. There's going to be a lot of 5 and 8s. You can't afford to fall behind. What we saw last year with Ottawa and Montreal off to bad starts and finding their way into the playoffs and kind of breaking the mold of what happens when you're in, like, not only out of the playoffs, but completely in the hole by U.S. Thanksgiving. I don't think that's a thing that you can do this year. And I think the Canadiens have approached training camp with that mentality. They did win their first game last year, if I'm not mistaken, although maybe I am, and I'll have to go back and look at it. But it's not just the first game, right? Like it's having the urgency to step on it right from the start, especially, like you said, at a time where other teams are playing loose. And if you have the ability to play tight, which I think the Canadiens were so focused on through training camp, it gives you the edge you're looking for. So we'll see.
All right, Eric, listen, enjoy your time in Toronto. We are always grateful that you give us some of it, because we know that you're a busy guy. And listen, the Montreal Canadiens are worth buying a ticket to go watch. And I think that's good for the National Hockey League. And I will certainly be tuned in tonight. So enjoy the game. And as always, like we said, thanks for your time. And we'll reconnect with you here at some point.
Yeah, it's always fun being with you guys. I love the show and I love being with you. So I'm sure we'll do it plenty this year.
All right. Thank you, and good luck with that computer tonight.
Yeah, it should work out. See you guys.
Awesome stuff from Eric Engels. He will definitely be a regular on the show throughout the year, as Montreal is going to be one of the more exciting teams in the league. Colby, I do just want to finish our like quick little thoughts on the Rangers because there were things on the Penguins side that I actually wanted to add. I thought Dan Muse, I mean, kudos to him, his first NHL game as a head coach, and in this lineup. I don't know if everyone caught this. I tweeted it out last night, but the starting lineup last night, he had Crosby, Malkin, and Letang out there together because it is their 20th season together. But they were also joined by Ben Kendall, the Penguins' 11th overall pick from this past year's draft. So he made the team out of camp as the 11th overall pick, which is incredibly impressive. And then Harrison Brunick on the back end. So those two guys in their first NHL game. Imagine doing your rookie lap bucket off MSG, and then you start the game with Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. Like that was such a cool moment to just witness. And I don't know if a lot of people really picked up on it right away.
I saw your tweet. I mean, listen, personally, I think it's low hanging fruit. Like I don't think that's that
dude,
hard.
just imagine being those kids. Come on.
No, it's cool for those kids. I saw your tweet about how like you thought it was cool that he started the big three together from the Pittsburgh
with them.
dynasty years. Yeah. Which is the kid who's from South Africa? That was the defenseman, right? Yeah. That's cool. And I didn't realize that Olaf Kolzig was South American. I always just assumed he was like either from Czech Republic or somewhere like that, or Austria or something. I didn't realize that's where he was from. So they certainly talked a lot about that during the game last night.
Yeah. And that first goal, I know we kind of wanted to talk about the faceoff a little bit because there were a ton of video coaches on Twitter last night, including me. I mean, right away, I was, tweeting about how Lafreniere's got to hold his ground as the weak side winger. But Snark Messier on Twitter, one of a listener of ours, I don't know what his actual name is or what his name in the YouTube chat would be if he contributes, but he pointed out that it looked like Malkin lost that draw on purpose and Brazeau slipped through to get to the front of the net, which is like similar to what Nick Bonino, who came on our show this summer and explained as far as the faceoff plays go. He said he did that in New York with Mika and Kreider. So I asked Crosby about it last night. I mean, I don't know if Vic wants to play the clip with the
He didn't shut you down, but he kind of shut you down with the credit. Answer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, Johnny, you were a forward. Like, forwards try to go forward on faceoffs. Like that is something forwards will do. You saw the alignment of the New York Rangers. You had a defenseman directly behind and then a defenseman on the strong side wall. Any smart offensive forward is going to go. And Malkin happens to be a Hall of Famer, not just any old forward.
He didn't even have his stick down. He didn't even have his stick down. He let Trocheck win that thing cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think he saw the alignment and he said, "I'm going through here," and then Lafreniere slept on it, which generally speaking seems to be his way. And it was a beautiful goal.
I just got another text from a former New York Ranger about the faceoff as we're speaking, saying, "What is 18 doing here?" Where do you put the blame on this faceoff play? Because we're hearing about it from some former players.
I mean, like I think
there's three mistakes. Like, Trocheck loses it clean.
Strong side winger has to hold his ice right there. Okay, like, and Panarin's going through to Panarin's the guy who's supposed to go through, and then Lafreniere's the guy who needs to stay home. And the defenseman alignment, just again, not how I would align it. And then, for Vakanainen, like, stick on puck, man. You can't have your stick up in a guy's waist. It doesn't work in the National Hockey League. So, listen, poor alignment, although I'm seeing that alignment more and more, to be honest. So there must be something to it. And, the winger sleeping in front, Lafreniere, like that is his job to stay home there if Panarin's going through. And then watch Vakanainen's stick. Look where it is. What good is your stick up in the air? Are you playing lacrosse? Are you playing hockey? Right? I mean, this is stick on puck all day, every day. Congratulations, you had a hit, but it was a waste of energy, right? So an ugly play by the New York Rangers, no doubt.
Yeah, Vic, play the clip though, because I do want people to look at Malkin too. Like, just watch Evgeny Malkin's stick and the way he turns before the puck's even dropped. Was that goal off the draw a set play from Nick Bonino? Because it looked like Gino didn't even try to win it. He jumped when Trocheck put his stick down. I know Nick Bonino's done that in the past, so I'm curious if that was all
I
his
don't
brain.
know. I've seen Gino do it, so you'd have to check with him. I've seen him jump through a few times, and I think he likes to keep the centers honest doing that once in a while. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was set play. I don't know if I can give Bones the credit on it. I'll say that Gino might have tried it, but yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
I mean, Malkin, just when I watched that replay, the fact that he doesn't even try to win that faceoff, that's what really stood out to me. But again, like I thought after Snark Messier made that comment, like maybe that was a Nick Bonino thing, but I guess you gotta credit Gino, and I guess Vic is shutting me up there because his stick does go down. Obviously, it has to go down.
Yeah.
But that little video, I mean, we will have more. Like I'll have more of those throughout.
Listen, I want to say this, Johnny. I give you credit for asking that question because for the show's purpose, like that was it was a good question to ask him because you never know what kind of soundbite. But come on, like it's Malkin. Like he doesn't need, like, the guy's a Hall of Famer for a reason, right? I mean, he sees the game and he knows which way to go with the play when he sees certain things align the way they are. So
yeah.
All right, let's get to our Uber Eats stat of the day, night.
Yep. Okay, we'll get to our Uber Eats stat of the day, and nobody tweeted at me any stats yesterday, but this is presented by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins. If you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. And today's Uber Eats stat of the day is Nathan MacKinnon last night passed Joe Sakic for most points in the history of the Colorado Avalanche with 1,016, but there's a little catch to it. He now has 1,017, but MacKinnon did it in 800. Yeah. MacKinnon did it in 871 games. Joe Sakic had 1,015 in 870 games. They were exactly tied in points and games played as members of the Avalanche before last night. MacKinnon still trails Sakic by 624 points overall. I have no doubt that he will get there at some point. But pretty cool stat as we make our way into the LA Kings and Colorado Avalanche game. First of all, that little surprise that the LA Kings pulled on social media, or I guess just in general, they come out in their normal uniforms for warm-up, and then they come out in different uniforms for the game. To pull that off in the year 2025 and to not be too eager to post the new uniforms on social media, credit to the Kings media staff, I guess. But I hated the new uniform. I don't know how you felt about it. I am not a fan of those jerseys. I think it's cool they did that, but I don't know. I thought they should have gone like purple and yellow. I love the purple and yellow Kings.
Oh no, come on! I thought they looked. I loved the way it all looked. The big black uniforms. They're a big team. Look, I'm generally old school. Like, I'm not a fan of all the new colors everywhere. Teams used to wear pretty much white pants, everyone would wear black pants. The Rangers have always worn their blue pants. The Red Wings have always had their red
Rangers
pants.
Wear red pants. Red pants. Rangers.
My bad. Red pants. But that's always been a thing. But like, even the Colorado Avalanche used to use black pants and black helmets. Now they use the blue pants and the blue helmets. Like, I've never been a fan of all sort of the new colors. Like, I like that more sort of standardized look. So I haven't really been a fan of colored helmets. The silver helmets last year that they had, I don't necessarily like the gold helmets that Vegas uses, but they definitely improved the helmets, in my opinion. And I thought that they looked really good. I thought they did a great job. I really did. I'm surprised that I felt this way, but something about that pop on the helmet with that all black uniform with the Kings trim, I liked it. And I'm generally more of a traditionalist, but I just think when you go out on the ice against a team in like an all black uniform, there's something that's a little bit intimidating about that. Now, granted, clearly not intimidating for the Colorado Avalanche, the way that they beat them up.
I can't believe you write those. I can't believe we're on the opposite ends of this. I think those are horrible.
I do. Which is just so rare for me to jump on board with something like that. But I think they pulled it off. I think it looked really good. But I didn't think they played really well. They looked slow. They couldn't generate nearly enough pressure on Scott Wedgwood, although he did make some saves.
I think the start was bad.
The gold helmets are atrocious. We're doing matte black helmets. Who has matte black? I saw somebody's rocking matte black helmets this year with a uniform,
The
which I think will
Penguins
look
are.
awesome. Is it the Penguins?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw Crosby at Player Media Tour. He had a matte black helmet, and like he said, "Do you like it?" And I was like, "I don't really know. Kind of gonna take some getting used to."
How about the first
yeah.
goal that Natchez scored last night? The puck watching for LA. Oh my God! Like that's what I mean about early season NHL. Like there's so much puck watching. There's so many guys that just really aren't picking up their coverages around the net. I think there's a lot of energy, but guys haven't settled into the pace of the regular season yet because the preseason just doesn't even compute and doesn't even compare, to the pace of the regular season. But, I did think Colorado looked to be skating. Nathan MacKinnon looked like he's ready to go. Natchez gets 2 goals, and that's somebody we're going to talk about all year because he needs a contract, Natchez, right?
Yeah.
He needs a
His
new
second
deal.
goal was a snipe.
Listen, I thought the first goal was a great shot as well, but how does he get so open there? I mean, what is LA doing with their coverage? You can't have 5 guys puck watch in the National Hockey League. That's going to end up in the back of your net all the freaking time.
I don't know if you've talked to Tyler, but Cody Ceci debut in LA, not great either.
He had a couple of tough shifts. I thought about texting Tyler, but I didn't want to engage that late. I really don't like looking at my phone at that point of the evening. I like to have my phone down and kind of away. So I didn't get him all stirred up about Cody Ceci, but I don't know. Listen, he predicted Tyler on either DFO Live or maybe ONE, or he might have even done it on the sheet, honestly, where
the
he
Kings
said he
missed the
thinks
playoffs?
the Kings could miss the playoffs this year.
That was
on our show. All right, there you go. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been taking in a lot of content lately, trying to kind of really get a feel for where everybody's at with things, and so I'm confusing them around a little bit, but we'll see. Listen, don't overreact after one game, no matter who you're a fan of. I don't think overreacting after one. I mean, I saw everybody going for JT Miller's throat last night. Like it's one game.
He's not healthy. He's not even healthy.
I'm sorry. I don't think, the sky is not falling for anybody yet. It might be in 3 weeks, but yet. Like everyone just take a deep breath.
Other thoughts, Darcy Kemper. You think Darcy Kemper can sustain what he did last year, or if he's not up to par, are the Kings in big, big trouble?
Well, listen.
Not that he played like super poorly, but like
the 2 Natchez goals, I don't put on him. The shot from the point, you'd like somebody to come up with a block, and you don't love the rebound goal. So it was just okay. He was just okay last night. I don't think he was terrible, but he certainly didn't steal any. And you'd like to see him stop the shot from the point. You'd like to see him fight through that, as I was kind of comparing, contrasting him to Sergei Bobrovsky. With that situation. But we'll see. I mean, that's a team we'll probably keep an eye on a little bit more than we have in years past.
Dude, D. Ely, relax, D. Ely. We love you, but he says, notice how people are talking about Natchez now that he's not on the Canes. The guy had 2 snipes last night. That's why we're talking about him. We talked about Natchez the whole first half of the year last year when he was like top 3 in points in the NHL. Canes fans always want to play victim. They always want to play victim. And I love you guys for it, Ian and D. Lee. But we're talking about Natchez because he scored twice last night. That's why we're talking about him. And he's in a contract year. And he got traded for Rantanen. Yeah. So I don't want to hear it from the Canes fans. We're gonna glaze the Canes when they win the Metropolitan Division, okay? We're gonna glaze them all year long because they're gonna be the best team by far in the Metro. We're gonna talk about how good Keandre Miller looks in Carolina. We're gonna talk about how good Nikolai Ehlers looks. We're gonna talk about Sebastian Aho.
We're going to talk about Avery's going to talk about
that. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wow. For sure. Mattias Ekholm, breaking news. Mattias Ekholm signs a 3-year extension at $4 million. That seems low for Mattias Ekholm, no?
All the Oilers are following McDavid, Colby.
Wow. That seems like a very low. Jake Wallman just signed for 7 and 7. And Mattias Ekholm's going to come in at at $4
Ekholm's
million.
35. He's 35 years old. He's 35 years old.
I know, and I wouldn't expect him to get a 7-year deal. I don't know. Maybe that was the only way he could get 3 years at his age, coming off of an injury season. I mean, he just took a $2 million haircut on the $6 million that he makes right now to take those years. Let's see here. Looking at some of his other contracts.
An Ekholm-sized hole. Remember that one from last year?
He's got career earnings of $44 million, Matthias Ekholm. That seems low for a guy who's been as good as he is, man. That seems very low. His last contract was an AAV of 6.25 a year, with base salaries ranging, from the $5 to $6.5 million mark. But so yeah, the last deal, $25 million. Previous deal before that was a cap hit AAV of 3.75 from 2016 to 2022. Yeah, so takes a step back on that amount of money. I mean, he's going to come in at like maybe 4.5% of the cap when this comes into play next year. Damn, I think that's a real team-friendly contract. I don't know is D White here today? Do we have our normal
Wow.
Edmonton crew in the chat today?
Puckpedia has already got the contract in there too, which is great. It says that they're actually 1.1 million above the cap. So what do they have to do to get back? They have to.
No, Johnny. This doesn't kick
What?
in.
Oh, this is next year.
He's under
Next year.
contract
Yeah,
right now.
Next year.
This kicks in next year.
Next year. But why does Puckpedia say that they're 1.1 million above the cap?
Well, I mean, it could be. Their cap
that's projected. Sorry.
This season. I mean, I don't know what
2.6 in current cap. 2.6 in current cap. Their projected is 1.1 above. That's my bad. My fault.
Okay. So, let's see. Coming off of an injured season, Jason Gregoire said he'd get just that amount on his platform yesterday. Jeremiah says, Energize says he'll be 36. New York Marine, yes, he'll be 36. Yeah, okay. So he probably could have gotten a couple dollars more if he took a shorter deal. Maybe if he said, I'll take 1 or 2 years, but it looks like he opted for that 3rd year. It'll be interesting to see if he has any no move in that. But there you go. Hey, at least they didn't wait till we were off the air to break it. So, yeah. Johnny, let's get to our bet of the night, and then let's call it a day.
All right, so another great day, and we'll cap it off with our Bet365 bet of the night. Obviously, last night couldn't have gone any worse. We took the Rangers on the puck line, and they lost 3-0 at home. So we are 0-1 for the year, to nobody who listens to this show is surprised. Tonight, whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. You must be 19 or older. This one is just to help out our good producer, Vic. We're taking the Montreal Canadiens on the money line on the road in Toronto. I believe they are at plus 140, but the lines did disappear just for a second here on Bet365. So don't have that exact line right now, but it was around plus 140. I think Montreal is one of those teams that's going to get off to a really good start. A lot of firepower. Toronto might need some time to figure things out, obviously, with Mitch Marner now being absent. So we'll take Montreal tonight on the road in what should be a very rowdy game to kick off the season. Colby's got something happening. And it's Sloan. Oh no! Don't let her speak into the microphone. Don't let her speak into the microphone.
Yeah, you can't say anything to Johnny. Okay, if you're going to sit here with me, you have to be quiet. Okay. Listen, it's been a great show today. We've got a little bit of a different look for you guys tomorrow, but we'll keep you on your toes, and we won't tell you exactly what that's going to look like tomorrow. But so far, so good this week. There's been hockey to watch, players performing. Sloan says hi to you all. You're doing such a great job being quiet. I'm so proud of you. So, Johnny, good show today. Tomorrow, I'll be handling the ad reads, so I'll be throwing everybody off tomorrow. We got Jeff Marek joining us for a little bit on the show tomorrow, so he'll make his season debut on Morning Cup of Hockey. And other than that, we hope everybody has a great day. We hope everybody gives us a like on the way out. Make sure you get those automatic downloads on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We keep telling you guys that is the big push for us this year. Get those audio downloads going. Leave us a like, leave us a comment. We'll drag it into tomorrow's show. Other than that, we hope everybody has a great day, and we will see you all 9 a.m. tomorrow.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cup of Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.